The pleasure house stood at the edge of the alien city, far from the shining towers and busy streets. It was not a place of joy. It was a place of silence, pain, and broken souls. Rich aliens and soldiers came there, but they never looked into. The eyes of the ones they used dot inside the house. Dim lights glowed in purple and blue. Music played softly. Girls stood in cages, some smiling, some pretending to be happy. But one girl was different. She sat in the darkest corner, her back against cold metal. Her skin was pale blue with soft silver lines. Her eyes, once bright, were now empty. She wore simple cloth and heavy chains on her wrists and ankles. She didn't speak. She didn't beg. She was called Unit-7. No one asked her name. No one cared. That night, a human soldier walked in. His name was Kyle, and he had just returned from a long mission on the battlefield. His clothes were dusty, his eyes tired, but he didn't come for fun. He came for something else, though even he didn't know what. A large alien guard greeted him. "Welcome, human. You fought well, yes? Choose anyone. All are ready for you." Kyle walked past the cages slowly. Girls reached out, smiling, whispering promises. But he kept walking, his eyes searching for something he couldn't explain. And then he saw her. She wasn't like the others. She didn't move. She didn't try to sell herself. She just sat there, head down, eyes staring at nothing. Kyle stopped. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. He stepped closer. His hand touched the glass of her cage. "Who is she?" he asked quietly. The guard looked and laughed. "Her? That one's useless. A personal slave used too much. Doesn't speak, doesn't move. Been here for years. No one wants her." "What's her name?" Kyle asked. "She has no name. Just Unit 7. Why would property need a name?" Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Open the cage." The guard blinked. "What? Why?" "You can have any other girl. I want to talk to her," Kyle said. His voice was calm, but strong. The guard grumbled, but pressed a button. The cage door slid open with a low hiss. Kyle stepped inside. The air was cold. The girl didn't move. He sat down a few feet away, careful not to scare her. "I'm Kyle," he said softly. "I'm a human. I don't want to hurt you." She didn't answer. He reached into his pocket and took out a small ration bar. He unwrapped it and placed it gently on the floor between them. Then he pushed it toward her. She didn't touch it. Kyle smiled sadly. "I know you don't trust me, but I'm not like them." Still no answer. "I was in a war," he continued. "I've seen people die. I've seen pain, but when I saw you, something inside me said, 'Don't walk away.'" At last she moved. Slowly, carefully, she reached for the bar. Her fingers shook. She took a small bite, then another. She didn't look at him, but she didn't look away either. Kyle felt something strange in his chest, like warmth and sadness mixed together. He stood and walked out of the cage. "How much for her?" he asked the guard. The alien burst into laughter. "You want her? She's broken. You must be joking." "I'm not," Kyle said. "Tell me the price." "She's not even for sale," the guard said. "But fine, give me everything you have. I want to see how stupid a human can be." Kyle handed over his credits, every last one. The guard gave him a collar key. "She's yours now," the alien chuckled. "Good luck, you'll regret it." Kyle returned to the cage. He held out the key. "Let's go," he said gently. Girl stood slowly, like her body forgot how to move. Her legs were weak. She stepped out of the cage for the first time in years. As they walked toward the exit, she looked around in fear. Outside, the night air was cold. Stars shone above them. They walked in silence for some time. Then Kyle turned to her. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," he said. "You're free now." The girl stopped walking. Kyle turned. "What's wrong?" She looked at him, her lips trembling. "Alira," she whispered. "What?" My name is Alira, Kyle smiled. A real warm smile. It's nice to meet you, Alira. For the first time, her eyes showed something hope. And together, they disappeared into the night. Where her new life was just beginning, the market. Lights flickered above them, but the girl wasn't staring at the sky. She was staring at her own hands open, shaking, free. Alira had forgotten how freedom felt, because no one had ever given it to her. Until now. And the guards didn't like that. Kyle and Alira walked through the streets. Most people ignored them. A few aliens gave them strange looks. A human soldier with a weak, dirty alien girl beside him was not a normal sight. She didn't speak. But her eyes kept moving, like she was afraid this was all a dream. Kyle glanced at her. Cold? She nodded slowly. He took off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. She froze. No one has ever given me anything before, she said. Barely above a whisper. You'll get used to it, he replied with a gentle smile. You're not a slave anymore, Alira. She said nothing, but something in her chest moved like a small, buried piece of her heart had started to breathe again. They reached the transport station. Kyle needed to register her release before leaving the city. That was the law. Otherwise, she'd be hunted as stolen property. As they waited in line, a tall alien officer walked up to them. His eyes were sharp, his voice full of power. You there? Human, he said, pointing at Kyle. That girl, where did you get her? She's mine now, Kyle said. I paid for her release. I have the documents. The officer looked Alira up and down like she was a piece of meat. She was marked as a personal slave. That kind doesn't get sold. Someone's going to be angry. I don't care who gets angry, Kyle said, holding her close. She's not going back. The officer grinned, sharp teeth showing. You can't just take her. Kyle pulled the release paper from his pocket and held it up. It's signed, stamped, legal. The officer snatched the paper, scanned it, and frowned. You overpaid by a lot, he muttered. This girl's worth nothing. She's worth everything, Kyle said without blinking. Alira looked up at him. Her lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes shimmered, not with fear this time, but something else. Something she didn't have a name for. A loud voice interrupted. She's with him now? It was the brothel handler, big, angry, and red-faced. She was never for sale. He shouted. It was a joke. The officer stepped between them. He paid. The paper's legal. But she was mine. The handler yelled. She was never yours, Kyle said, stepping forward. You chained her. You broke her. That ends. Now the handler lunged, but the officer raised a hand. Enough. Touch him, and you go to prison. The handler spat on the ground and stormed away. Kyle turned to Alira. You okay? She nodded, but inside her, something had changed. For the first time in her life, someone had protected her. They boarded the small shuttle heading out of the city. Alira sat by the window, watching stars blink in the sky. Her hands still trembled. Kyle sat beside her, quiet. After a long pause, she whispered, Why? He looked at her. Why what? Why me? She asked, eyes full of confusion. You could have picked anyone. Someone pretty. Someone clean. Someone not broken. Kyle took a deep breath. I don't want someone perfect, he said. I want someone real. And when you looked at me in that cage, you didn't beg. You didn't lie. You just looked. And I saw something in you. She stared at him, tears rising in her eyes. I'm scared, she said. I don't know how to live. I don't know how to be free. You don't have to know everything today, Kyle replied. Just stay with me. One step at a time. Alira wiped her eyes. Okay. Later that night, at a small rest station. Outside the city, Kyle offered her a room with a bed, but she didn't enter. He turned back. What's wrong? She stood in the doorway, her feet frozen. I've never had my own space. Not even 1 square meter. Kyle walked up gently. Touched her hand. You do now. Alira slowly stepped inside. She touched the blanket. Sat down on the edge of the bed. Then curled up in the corner of the room, like she always did in her cage. Kyle watched her for a moment, then placed a soft pillow under her head. You don't have to sleep like that anymore. I know, she whispered. But it's the only way I know how. And as the lights dimmed, Alira drifted into the first peaceful sleep she'd had in years. Safe, unchained, and not alone. The room was warm, the bed was soft, but Alira still slept curled in the corner, like she was waiting for pain to wake her. Freedom had come like a sudden wind, but her body still remembered the cage. And the man who freed her was now fighting. A new battle, how to teach someone to live again. Morning sunlight peeked through the window. Alira opened her eyes slowly. She was still breathing. She always thought if she ever escaped, the world would feel big, bright, full of noise. But it was quiet here, soft, clean, still. She hadn't touched the bed. She had slept on the floor, knees to chest, blanket barely pulled over her shoulders, just like every night in the brothel. The habit was too deep, like it lived in her bones. Kyle knocked gently and opened the door. She sat up fast, alert. He paused. You don't have to do that anymore. She blinked. Do what? Wake like you're in danger. Alira looked down. I don't know how else to wake. Kyle brought her food, nothing fancy, just toast and fruit from the vending machine. She stared at it like it was treasure. Eat, he said. You need your strength. She picked up a slice slowly. This is for me, he smiled. All of it. She took one bite, then paused. It doesn't taste like anything, Kyle chuckled. It's cheap food, but safe, no drugs. No punishment if you drop it. Alira chewed slowly. No one ever let me eat without rules before. No more rules here, Kyle said. Just healing. Later, she explored the rest station. Her bare feet padded across the soft floor. There were mirrors on the wall. She stopped in front of one dot and froze. She stared at her reflection, her thin face, messy hair, pale skin. She raised a hand to touch her cheek. Is that me? Kyle stood behind her. Yes. I look different from the others. You're not like them, he said. You're Alira, she turned. You remember my name? Of course. I've never forgotten it. No one had ever remembered her name before, not even herself. The name had been buried deep inside her, hidden by fear and pain. Now it was rising again. That evening, Kyle cleaned the small cabin. Alira sat on the couch, hugging her knees. He saw her eyes slowly drifting shut. You should sleep, he said. She nodded, stood, and walked to the bedroom, but only stood at the door. Kyle walked up behind her. Something wrong? She whispered. I can't sleep alone. He paused. You don't want to be alone? No, she said. I don't know how. When I was alone, bad things happened. If no one watched me, they thought I tried to escape. They punished me, even in sleep. Kyle's voice was gentle. There's no one here to punish you, Alira. She looked up. Will you stay? Just sit near the door while I sleep? He nodded. Of course. She lay on the bedstiff at first, then slowly relaxed. Kyle sat outside the door with a blanket, watching the stars through the window. Time passed, and then a soft voice broke. The silence. Kyle? He turned. Yes? She was sitting up now, eyes wide. You said I'm not a slave anymore. But what am I now? He stood and walked to the doorway. You're free. That's enough for now. She stared down at her hands. Free, she repeated. But I don't know what that means. It means no one owns you. It means your choices are yours. Even if you make mistakes, they're yours to make. She looked up. Do I get to choose who I stay with? He nodded. Yes. She whispered, then I choose to stay with you. That night, she fell asleep in the bed, not curled, but stretched out slowly, carefully, like her body was learning the shape of peace. Kyle sat by the window, watching her breathe. She was still scared, still unsure. But for the first time, she wasn't alone in the dark, and neither was he. Kyle thought he had freed her. But freedom isn't just walking away from a cage, it's removing the cage left behind on the skin, in the soul. And that night, he saw it, the brand, burned deep into her back like she was still someone's thing, and worse, someone wanted her back. Kyle found her in the washroom, standing under hot water, fully dressed. The clothes clung to her, dripping. He blinked. Alira? What are you doing? She didn't turn. I don't know how to wash like a person. Kyle stepped back, gave her space. You don't need to wear clothes while bathing. I feel naked without them, she said. Even with them on, I feel naked. His heart ached at her words. You're safe now. I want to believe that, she whispered. But my body doesn't. Later that evening, she allowed him to bring her clean clothes. She came out slowly, her wet hair sticking to her shoulders. Did I do it right? She asked, unsure. You look perfect, Kyle replied. A small smile touched her lips, the first one. Tiny, soft, real. But then something caught his eye. A strange glow beneath the back of her shirt. Like a faint, pulsing light under her skin. Alira. Can I see your back? She froze. What is it? She asked. I saw something. Just want to check. Slowly, carefully, she turned around. Kyle gently lifted her shirt, and there it was. A glowing scar, shaped like a symbol, alien letters wrapped around a circle. Burned into her flesh. Is that a brand? Kyle whispered. She didn't answer at first. Then, in a hollow voice. Yes, it means I belong to House Vurin, a noble bloodline on planet Zaire. The mark can be scanned, it never fades. Kyle's jaw tightened. So they can still track you? Alira nodded. If I get too close to their ships, yes. And if anyone scans me, they'll know I was a personal slave. Not even a common one. I was owned by someone high. Kyle sat down, running a hand through his hair. Why didn't you tell me? Because it doesn't matter, she said. Even if I told you, would it change anything? Would it erase? He looked into her eyes. No, but maybe I could have helped sooner. The next morning, Kyle went to a nearby tech market, searching for a way to block the scan. He returned with a small device, a blocker patch. This will stop the signal, he said, holding it out. She took it, stared at it, then slowly pressed it over the scar. The glow dimmed, faded, gone. For the first time, the skin on her back looked like skin, not property. But that night, someone knocked on their door. 3 alien enforcers stood outside, cold eyes watching. One held a scanner. Kyle stepped forward. Can I help you? We received a signal ping. One of our marked slaves was seen in this zone. Kyle stayed calm. You won't find what you're looking for here. The scanner flashed red, then green, then shut off. No signal detected, the enforcer grunted. Maybe it was a ghost ping. They left. Kyle shut the door and turned. Alira was curled on the floor, shaking. They came, she whispered. They'll come again. Kyle knelt beside her. Let them come. Next time, they'll see what happens when someone tries to take you from me. Alira looked at him through tear-filled eyes. Why do you care so much? Because, he said gently, you're not a slave. You're not a brand. You're not a number. You're Alira, and you're mine now by choice, not chains. That night, she climbed into the bed herself, not to hide, but to rest. And for the first time, she whispered softly before sleeping. Good night, Kyle. And Kyle, sitting beside her, whispered back, Good night, Alira. You're safe. But outside in the shadows, someone was still watching. Alira woke before the sound. Her body remembered danger before her mind did. And when she heard the glass shatter and the door burst open, she didn't scream. She just moved. Because she knew this feeling. They had come to take her back, dark. Boots stormed into the small shelter. Heavy hands grabbed Kyle and threw him across the room. He hit the wall hard and didn't get up right away. Alira stood frozen by the bed. Barefoot, her heart pounding in her chest like a war drum. 3 men, armor, black suits. Red lights on their chests. Enforcers from House Vurin. One of them pointed. At her. There she is, Slave Unit 7, target found. Another stepped forward, holding an electric shackle. You were marked. You're still theirs. Alira didn't run, she didn't cry, but her fingers curled into fists. I'm not yours, she said. Not your choice, the man growled, moving fast. Kyle groaned from the floor. Don't touch her. The enforcer laughed and hit him again. With the back of his weapon. Kyle dropped, blood on his lip. Alira's body trembled. But not from fear this time, from fury. She looked at Kyle wounded, helpless. Bleeding for her. She looked at the weapon lying on the table, and she moved Dot in one fast motion. She grabbed the stun blaster, aimed and fired. Crack! The blast hit the first enforcer in the chest. He dropped like a stone. The others turned. Alira didn't wait. She fired again, missed, but shouted, "Step away from him." Kyle blinked in shock, barely able to sit up. Alira. Her hands were shaking, but her aim was steady. You don't own me, she said, voice clear. I'm not Unit 7 anymore. I have a name. I have someone. One of the enforcers growled. You think you're brave, little slave? I'm not a slave, she said. I'm his. The fight didn't last long. Kyle crawled to his feet, helped her with the last one. Together, they tied the invaders and activated an emergency signal. Soon, a human patrol arrived. An officer scanned the IDs of the downed men. These aren't bounty hunters. These are noble house enforcers. You two just made powerful enemies. Kyle held Alira close. We didn't start this, but we'll finish it. The officer looked at Alira. You're the girl they were tracking? Alira nodded. You defended yourself. He asked. I defended us, she said, voice strong. The officer stared for a moment, then nodded. Good. That night, the two of them sat by the window in silence. The stars looked farther away than usual. Kyle finally spoke. You saved me. I was tired of running, she said, and tired of being scared. You weren't just brave, he said softly. You were unstoppable. Alira looked at her hands, still trembling. I didn't even know I could fight. Kyle smiled. You didn't just fight. You chose. That's real freedom. She looked at him with new eyes, not just thankful, not just afraid, but alive. Later, as she lay beside him, no longer curled in fear, she whispered, If they come again, I'll still fight. Kyle turned to her, wiped the small cut on her cheek. They won't come again. Not without facing both of us. For the first time she leaned into him, her voice soft, strong, and certain. Then I want to stay. Forever. And in that quiet room, where pain once lived, something else was born home. Alira thought she was hiding. But when she stepped out of the bathroom, she found something on the bed, something small, shining, and impossible. A ring. Beside it, a folded piece of cloth. She touched it, confused. And then Kyle walked in and said 6 words that froze her soul. Let's stop hiding. Let's get married. Alira blinked. The ring sparkled in the warm light. It wasn't gold or silver, it was simple metal, shaped by hand. But to her, it looked like a crown. You want to marry me? She whispered. Kyle nodded. Yes, not because I rescued you, not because I feel sorry, but because I love who you are. Alira took a step back, her hands shaking. You don't understand. I'm not clean. I'm not whole. I was used. I was owned. Kyle stepped closer, gently placing his hands over hers. You were never the problem, he said. What they did to you was wrong. But that pain, it's not who you are. I see the real you. She looked away. People will talk. Let them, Kyle said. We're not doing this for them. They left the shelter before sunrise, riding a quiet shuttle through the misty hills outside the city. Kyle knew someone, an old woman who once served as a marriage elder in the outer colonies. She didn't work in the system anymore. She worked for the broken, the lost, the ones without papers. She helped my friend marry an alien refugee, Kyle explained. No one else would. Alira sat quietly beside him, holding the ring in her palm like it might vanish if she blinked. What? If I say yes? She asked. Then we start a life together, Kyle said. And if I say no? He smiled softly. Then I'll still protect you. I'll still be here. Tears welled up in her eyes. No one had ever given her a choice before. They arrived at a small garden, outside a village. The elder was there, tall, wrinkled, with eyes that had seen centuries of pain and love. She looked at Alira. You're the girl with the scar on her back. Alira flinched. The elder stepped forward and gently touched her cheek. But now you wear light in your eyes. That means you're ready. The ceremony was simple. A circle drawn in the dirt. 2 hands joined. No music, no guests. Just words. Do you take her without conditions? I do, Kyle said. And do you take him without fear? Alira paused and her hands trembled, but then she smiled. I do. The elder placed the ring on Alira's finger and whispered a blessing. You are no longer alone. Go and live free. Afterward, they sat under a tree, watching the wind move the tall grass. I feel strange, Alira said. Good strange. Or bad strange? She smiled. Like I'm dreaming. Like I was never meant to have this. You were meant for more, Kyle said. And now you get to decide what that is. She turned toward him. Does this mean I belong to you now? Kyle shook his head. No, he said. It means we belong to each other. That night, they stayed in a small cabin nearby. No bars on the doors, no locked rooms. Just stars above. And quiet all around. Alira stood by the mirror, staring at the ring on her finger. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just whispered to herself, I'm not property. I'm a wife, his wife. And in the bed, where she once curled in fear, she now rested beside someone who had never touched her body, without touching her soul first. Her past was a wound, but Kyle's love was a promise. And that night, she finally believed it. The crowd stared. The noble master pointed at her and shouted, Return what belongs to me. But Alira didn't hide. She didn't cry. She took one step forward, lifted her hand, and showed them the ring on her finger. I don't belong to you, she said. I belong to no one but myself. It happened during a peaceful walk through the trade market. Kyle and Alira were looking at fabrics. She smiled as she held a soft red scarf to her cheek. This feels like something a queen would wear, she said playfully. You already are. One, Kyle replied. To me. But then the air turned cold. A voice, sharp, familiar, cruel, cut through the noise. Well, so the little slave still lives. Alira froze. Kyle turned instantly. Across the square stood Lord Vurin, her former owner. He wore expensive robes, surrounded by guards. His face curled in amusement and hate. She still wears the brand, he said loudly. She's still mine. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Kyle stepped in front of Alira. She's not yours, she's my wife. Lord Vurin laughed. A wife? That thing? You married your own property, human. The crowd fell silent. Alira placed a hand on Kyle's shoulder. Let me. He turned, confused. Alira. She walked past him, her steps slow, but unshaking. The people whispered. She faced her old master, looked him straight in the eyes. "Do you remember what you called me?" She said, "Unit 7, Object, Animal." Lord Vurin smirked. "You still are. That mark on your back proves it." Alira smiled and lifted her shirt just enough to reveal nothing. The mark was gone, burned away. "Removed by fire and pain, I erased it," she said calmly. "Like I erased you." He stepped forward, red with rage. "You will be punished for this disrespect." She raised her hand and the ring glinted in the sunlight. "I'm married now. Protected under human law. You touch me. You started Comte. War." Gasps grew louder. Lord Vurin turned to the local officer. "Do something. She's mine." But the officer only shrugged. "She's registered under a human union now." "Not your concern." Lord Vurin's lips twisted. "You'll regret this, girl." Alira leaned forward and whispered, "I regret only one thing, not leaving sooner." Then she turned her back on him without fear and walked away, hand in hand with Kyle. Later that night, in a quiet place under the stars, Alira held the red scarf in her lap. "Today, I wasn't afraid," she said. "You were amazing," Kyle replied. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you know what I realized?" "What?" "Freedom isn't just about running away. It's about standing tall when they expect you to kneel." Kyle smiled. "Then you're the freest person I've ever met." She looked up at him. "I was a slave, then I was nothing. And now." She took his hand, placed it on her heart. "Now I'm someone." The girl in chains was gone. In her place stood a woman brave, scarred and unbroken. And as she closed her eyes beside the man who saw her not as property, but as a partner, she knew one thing for certain. She was never born to be owned. She was born to be loved.